Well, my friend, when last we left, we knew that there was going to be an interesting baseball game played in Miami last night, and we were not disappointed. It was one heck of a baseball game. I'll tell you what, if we were talking yesterday and we would have said, well, Venezuela's going to score 3 runs, I think most people said, oh, great, the U.S. is going to win, but not so much.
Yeah, I would have been directly there with you, 100% if I'd known that Venezuela was only going to score 3 runs. Look, a lot of people, the knee jerk reaction, really through 5 innings last night was if the United States loses this baseball game, it was on Nolan McLean. You go back and you look at McLean's statistics last night versus what Paul Skeens did in the semifinals, and you've got two really similar outings, all things considered.
Sure.
McLean gave up one more run. He obviously had the solo homer that also went against him. But you look at it, Skeens gave up more hits. Noel McLean actually went one out longer than Skeens did in his semifinal performance. You can make the argument, different lineups. Regardless, still a really solid outing from him. But when you look at it throughout that entire lineup for Team USA, it really just an unacceptable night at the plate. Really, once they got into the single elimination, the United States offense just kind of disappeared.
Yeah, I thought a lot of it. And you got to give credits to the other teams sometimes.
Yeah.
I think what we saw last night was a lot of swing and miss. I don't know if they were pressing or what they were doing, but they were not. I mean, Aaron Judge didn't make contact most of the time that he was swinging. That's not Aaron Judge. Bryce Harper got the home run, which was good on him. But that's probably the only ball he centered up whenever in the entire tournament.
Yeah.
There's the other thing is this: both the Dominican and the team from Venezuela that won last night. People forget the vast majority of those guys that played on those two teams. And again, I'm not making an excuse for anybody, okay, at all. But they played winter ball, so they have been playing for months, and they came to the the World Baseball Classic ready to rock and roll.
Yeah.
And the Major League Baseball, the guys from the U.S., most of these guys just had gotten to camp.
Yeah, that is definitely an aspect that probably played some factor. But I think the resounding thing that I got, and I mean, Bryce Harper's homer was a really good moment, fantastic last night. But aside from that, the U.S. team for really these last couple of games just kind of felt flat. And I don't know if that's me contradicting them to what they've been playing against in Team Venezuela and the Dominican Republic, but it's just something where it just didn't feel like the energy matched. Especially when you look at it, I think they were 3 for 31 throughout their bats last night. It just wasn't a good outing for that entire lineup, and it's something where obviously there's going to be people that make a lot about Aaron Judge and his performance. And I think to a certain extent that is fair because he is the guy who is your reigning AL MVP. He is the guy who hits like 50 home runs a year, batting title champion, all that other stuff. He's your captain, right? So the blame is going to fall on him. But you look at that lineup as a whole, and none of them really did a whole lot all the way through. I think people are, and I think rightfully so, questioning some of the decisions of Mark DeRosa as well. But overall, I really throughout the majority of the tournament, it just felt like they approached this tournament. It felt like in a different way than most of the other teams.
Yeah, they didn't have, to me anyway, they didn't have the enthusiasm and the drive that the Dominican and certainly Venezuela had. I mean, they lived and died on every out with the Dominican and Venezuela. I mean, you looked at that dugout, and man, they were engaged the whole time.
Yeah.
And the U.S. dugout, and those guys were, they were standing up. They were, it wasn't like they were asleep, but they certainly weren't as energized. And I'm truly, truly, truly one of my favorite people on the planet, and one of the best, who's going to be a manager someday. Geraldo Parra, who was their first base coach of Venezuela.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he was, he's part manager, part coach, part cheerleader. He kept them going, man. He kept everybody in that dugout, just having a good time. And, John Smoltz brought up a really good point during the broadcast last night. And John said, look, you can harp on DeRosa all you want to. But he goes, if normally, if you're the manager, you got one general manager that gives you grief. He goes, John, DeRosa's got 30.
Mm-hmm.
Saying, okay, wait, this is how you get, and it's not just the pitchers.
Yeah.
This is what you can play with our guy, blah, 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 the whole routine. And I thought that, when they went to the pen last night, when Venezuela went to the pen, and the Cubs had asked, no, do not pitch him back to back. And he got on the phone and said, no, I'm pitching. If the game's on the line, I'm coming in to save it.
Yeah.
And, and he did.
Well, and I think that's a situation where Venezuela is also in a bit of an advantage situation, because I think the Padres had asked the same thing of Mason Miller. Don't
Right.
use him unless it's a safe situation.
Right.
And top of the ninth, that's a tie game. That's not a save situation.
I understand.
They had to go to Garrett Whitlock, who, all things considered, he's pitched a lot in this World Baseball Classic, and that was a back-to-back for him as well. And he did not have his best stuff or anywhere close to it last night. And it's a situation where you would have liked to see him go to Mason Miller, but that wasn't the situation that the Padres had asked of Mark DeRosa, to my knowledge, to use him in. Now, granted, you're not going to get one of those situations when you're the home team headed into the ninth inning in a tie ball game. There's not going to be a safe situation. So there is that flip side to it. But you're 100% correct in the fact that there are limitations, and I think that was one set by the Padres, is they didn't want Mason Miller used unless it was a safe situation.
Right.
And although the leverage was the same in the top of that ninth inning, it wasn't technically a safe situation.
Yeah. I know that the Dominican, it's hilarious. I mean, this is crazy. Almost half the Dominican players. Now, of course, they were in Miami, so that makes it a little easier. But almost half of the Dominican players are playing today for their respective teams.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that Junior Caminero called Eric Nylander, after the game and said, look, I want to start against the Yankees. I'm heading to Tampa.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm heading to, well, they played in Tampa. So, they're heading to Tampa. And half the team, I mean, they were in Dunedin and Clearwater, and they were ready to, they're ready to get going. And to a great extent, I think that's good. Now, DeRosa made some comments after the game saying that it would be better if they did this during the All-Star break instead. Played the game during the All-Star break.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that that'll ever happen, but that's basically the Olympic situation.
Yeah.
And I don't know that the Players Association would ever go for it. I don't know if Major League Baseball would ever go for it. I don't know, but there were a lot of people this morning, a lot of haters on the World Baseball Classic. I honestly believe it was very entertaining, and something that I would like to continue to see them do. I mean, I thought it was, for the most part, sure, there were some games that were blowouts but certainly the key games down the stretch were all very close and played very well.
Yeah, I mean, you can go back to that Venezuela and Japan game,
Hmm.
um, in that first knockout round, and that was a fantastic game. You got Italy's run,
Yeah.
obviously the power on power matchup with the U.S. and the Dominican Republic meeting in the
Hmm.
semifinals as well. It was a really good tournament. You're right, a lot of high leverage games really late in the tournament. It's a great tournament. It's a shame that we have to wait until 2030 now,
Yeah.
when it rolls around next.
Yep. But that's something that I think we all are excited. Now you're before we get to the before we get over to the brackets, you're near Valspar. This is the week of the Valspar Championship. Uh,
Hmm.
they got some good players in this tournament.
Yeah, mentioned it yesterday. I went and checked in. They mentioned how, and I sat in on the interview that they had with Xander Schauffele there shortly
Hmm.
after, and in the line of questioning, they had talked about the how year over year the field seems to be strengthening for this event,
Hmm.
and I think it has a lot to do with the course. I think it has a lot to do with the way the PGA Tour schedule works
Hmm.
right now as well. And you're getting these higher leverage, or not higher leverage, but these bigger name guys and these stronger fields in this event,
Hmm.
really more year in and year out. And again, you have this time you have the luxury. The field's been expanded, I believe, to 135 players
Hmm.
due to the inclusion of Brooks Koepka in this tournament as well.
Right.
Um, it's one where when Xander was talking about it yesterday, it talked about how different it is, and
Hmm.
it's not necessarily that it's a reprieve based off the last couple of weeks,
Hmm.
but it's just a different style of golf course. It's very tight
Hmm.
around Innisbrook, and but the difference here is that the greens are much softer. Whether that be the rain, whether it be the way the grounds are kept, the greens are much softer. And it's something where you've been able to see that visually on TV at Bay Hill and the Players these last couple of weeks, where you get
Hmm.
that browning of the greens. And when they get brown and stuff like that, they really dry out and harden, and they move a lot quicker, and they're much less receptive. That's where you see those big bounces, and balls don't hit and stop as much. It makes it play much harder. But these are guys now where if they're able to work this thing around, and the tight nature of this golf course doesn't matter, and they hit greens, they're going to be in much better positions to make putts. That's the reason guys like Brooks Koepka and Xander Schauffele, who have been really, when you watch them the last couple of times they've played,
Hmm.
it feels like they've been really close, but they've been lacking the putter. These greens are going to play a lot differently, honestly, be more receptive, probably a little bit easier to putt on for these guys this week. And it's stuff where when you see guys like that who have had the ball striking these past few events, you would look for them to play very well this week.
Yeah, and one of the other things is, and this is from last year's tournament when I had a chance to speak to some of the players, and they were all about the fact that what we like the way this thing's going to work out because it's going to be fun. It's a fun tournament. It's a challenging tournament, and because the course is tight, it gets us ready for Augusta.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think it's a course that is a little bit more geared towards an Augusta type situation. The
Hmm.
greens are obviously going to be different, but in terms of the shot types going into the green, that's where you get a little bit more like Augusta compared to some of those Texas swing events.
Uh-huh.
It's also something that for a lot of these bigger name players, it fits into their schedule well. I think Scotty Scheffler might be your biggest exception because he is a guy that is from Texas. But a lot of these guys that live in Florida, they don't really want to have to go out to Texas prior to the Masters because I
Right.
believe in the 2 weeks after this, it's a couple of Texas events, and then we head back to Augusta, Georgia. So
Hmm.
they don't want to have that travel on their schedule. They aren't signature events that lie ahead of them. So they don't see the plus in going out and traveling to Texas when they can play in the Valspar, get this kind of prep, and then stay home and really get to Augusta pretty early and start their prep there.
Yeah, you got Victor Hovland. He's a good one. Jordan Spieth is going to be in the tournament. Justin Thomas. You mentioned Brooks going to play in there. You've got that's a very representative field.
Yeah, yeah, it's It's a very representative field. I think prior to Akshay Bhatia's withdrawal, they had somewhere in the neighborhood of 12, I think, players inside of the official World Golf Ranking top 50. So it's a really good field. And then on the backside, you've got some good stories as well. Blades Brown, the young, I believe he's 18 now, is in the field this week for this event. Joel Damon is now a late entry who is more of a fan favorite than anything, which is no disrespect to his golf game because he can play as well. But he's entered the field as well. So you've got some of those names on the backside of the list that maybe aren't, they don't have the same repertoire when it comes to their ranking, but they have the name value that can bring people in as well.
Yep, and I think that one of the things that I'm sure you'll find is that certainly the quality of play is such that it's very well represented. There's going to be a lot of people coming to that to that event, and should be fun.
Yeah, and also, it's just mentioned that Akshay Bhatia had withdrawn, and he committed to a tournament. I believe the DP World Tour event in India. I'm very curious to see how that affects his schedule because there was Kevin Kisner, Tiger Woods' current TGL teammate, actually, made a I don't know if it's so much a plea as he just told Tiger this is what he should do. Prior to their playoff matchup last night, he told Tiger that if they won that, he would have to play in their championship event. Well, now Akshay's schedule got different. He's been that third member of that Jupiter Links golf team. I don't think Kisner would get the call up if Akshay was not to play in it. So here in a couple weeks, as Tiger tries to continue to prep for Augusta, it'll be interesting to see if he chooses to play in that championship TGL match.
We'll see. All right, here we go, boys and girls. It's time to bracket time. Get your brackets out because we're going to try to help you through this. Let's see how it works if I'm sharing the screen. There we go. I don't know if anybody can read that, but we can go down. Okay. The way it works here is we got the East first. So Duke and Siena.
Yeah, that's I think
yes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's I mean anyone that's not picking Duke there, good Lord.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Ohio State, TCU.
These are games where I was
going 8-9.
Yeah, I was going through looking at the 8-9 matchups, and there's 4 of them. I think the largest point spread is 2.5 points across these 8-9 matchups. They're all very tight. And I looked when I initially went through, and I realized I was like, man, I've picked the 4 favorites. Like there's not a lot. I haven't done a lot with this. Went through, so I wouldn't recommend picking 4 favorites. Your 4 favorites are going to be Ohio State, Utah State, Georgia, and Iowa, actually. So 2 of the 9 seeds are favorites via the sports books. 2 of the 8 seeds are favorites via the sports books. It's tough. I've got some brackets. I got one bracket where I picked Ohio State, and my main one that I went with, I picked TCU. It feels like everybody is on Ohio State a lot. They really like what they did throughout the Big Ten tournament. I understand that. You could obviously see some of that momentum coming into this tournament, but TCU is only a 2.5-point dog for a favorite,
right?
For a reason, I should say. And so when you have favorites that are as public as Ohio State is, I'm going to lean towards TCU in that one.
I'm looking that we'll move to St. John's in just a minute, but this whole tournament is pretty chalky. There's not. I don't see a lot of upsets coming here, but I've never filled out a complete bracket from a standpoint of winning it all. So, I never bet against Rick Pitino in an NCAA tournament. It's not a good idea.
Yeah, and especially not with a team that just came off of a Big East title as well.
Right. Mm-hmm.
That's not something that I would consider advisable.
Okay. Kansas and California Baptist. I know that that religion will help, but not enough to beat Kansas, I don't think.
No, I struggle to see it. If you're going to pick, I think ESPN, the service that you're on now, actually has something of a statistic. I think fours win about 79, just over 79% of the time against 13s. So you don't have to pick one, but if you're going to pick one, I don't think that is going to be your 13/4 upset.
Then we got Louisville and South Florida. Now, call me a homer, which everybody will. I'm going to go with the Bulls here because young Mr. Brown of Louisville is not going to play.
Yeah,
he's one of their top players.
Yeah, got that news. Looked at the point spread. I like South Florida there. They played really well in the back half of their season, obviously playing well in that American tournament. It's something where you would expect momentum to kind of roll in there, especially with Louisville missing such an important player.
Yeah. Michigan State, North Dakota State. This is an Izzo situation. But North Dakota State's not bad.
No, not a bad basketball team, but I said it maybe it was yesterday, day before when we were talking about this. There's three guarantees in life: death, taxes, and Tom
Izzo, right?
So I'd be hard pressed to pick anybody but Michigan State, especially in a 3 versus 14 matchup.
Yeah, I definitely agree on that one. Let's move on. UCLA, UCF. That to me is going to be a very entertaining game. UCLA at the 7 seed, UCF at the 10 seed.
Yeah, and UCF they have not played as well. Ended their regular season on a loss. Ended their tournament, their American tournament on a loss. Did not win a game in that tournament. That's not ideal when you're looking at their Big 12 tournament, should I say? Apologies. It's not really what you want to see headed into March.
Right.
But I also am paying attention to the travel factor here. And I talked earlier in the season about how good UCLA would be if they were still in the Pac-12, if they played at home, or even on the West Coast for that matter. They travel to the East Coast for this game. I know it's not going to be the same as traveling for in-conference. You got a much different travel schedule. You got a lot more time to get acclimated and prepared, right? But it's one where I like UCF in that matchup.
I'm going to go with UCLA in it because they've been in town for a while. They're not. It's not a situation where they can get acclimated to it. I understand what you're saying, and believe me, it is a dare for them to go. It's much tougher for teams to go west to east than it is to go east to west. And so there's that. I have a thing about not betting against Hurley either. UConn and Furman. I'm sorry, Furman. I'm going to go with UConn on that one.
Yep, I took UConn as well.
All right, let's move to. You want to go through this whole way down, or how do you want to do this?
Yeah, we can run the full round of 64.
Okay, here we go. All right, let's just work our way back up. UCLA, UConn. UConn's been up there all season long.
Yeah. UConn's a team that I really feel good about making that run. I think Dan Hurley last year honestly might have went home a little bit disappointed with the fight they gave Florida, the eventual national champions last year. I think he felt like he had a national championship team last year. I don't know if he feels as good about this team this year, but they are a 2 seed. And now, granted, I have them going up against UCF, so it was a little bit easier of a decision for me in my bracket. But I really like Dan Hurley and UConn to at least make the Sweet 16. Yeah,
I agree with you what you said about the situation of him being. One thing I don't think Dan gets a lot of credit for is being a tremendous recruiter.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
he definitely doesn't get that kind of respect.
Yeah.
Um,
Which is really interesting because you go back, you look at, they have solo ball this year.
mhm.
I believe it wasn't last year, year before. They had Stephen Castle, who was a freshman. He was freshman All American. Went, what was it, number? He was a lottery pick in the draft, NBA Rookie of the Year a couple of years ago. So he has done a really good job when he sets his sights on one of those big time recruits.
I got UConn going through to the Sweet 16 as well. Um, this is the Kansas St. John's game. I, you know, I like the idea of Patino and Hurley having a rematch. To me, that's about as sweet as it gets.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And that's there's I've had a couple brackets because I went with Michigan State over South Florida. Understand why you didn't. Um,
Mine is
it's
purely on a pick of of passion for my school. I'm not saying to anybody that you should do this. Do it if you wish, but you know, South Florida beating Michigan State would be an incredible accomplishment.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I've flip flopped back and forth because most of my brackets I've had that Michigan State UConn matchup
Mhm.
sitting there. It's one that I really like mainly because of the two guys that are at the helm for those two teams,
Yeah.
Tom Izzo and Dan Hurley. I really have a hard time picking against either of them. So and in one of my brackets I went UConn. I believe in two of them I went Michigan State. So I think my overwhelming consensus is Michigan State. I really like the talent that they have this year. I think they've played a little bit up and down, but they have been at the top of that Big Ten. They did some good battles with some of those top programs: Purdue, Illinois, obviously Michigan as well. So I think they're just a little bit more battle tested than UConn is. And again, Tom Izzo in March, I like it a lot. So
Hmm.
I do have them moving on to the Elite Eight.
I'm trying to figure out why. What am I hitting and I'm not hitting? Okay. Um, hmm. It's not going into my bracket. UConn. Oh wait. Um,
So what are you trying to do?
I'm trying to advance St. John's to UConn.
Oh, you gotta go back. You have the St. John's and Kansas matchup flip flop. You have Kansas picked right now.
Yeah,
There
but
you go.
neither one of them. Oh
It's
wait, St.
because
John's
St.
went to
John's.
Duke.
Yep, St. John's plays Duke, and that's actually a matchup that I picked St. John's in. I had that exact matchup, and
Hmm.
I believe every bracket that I made, and I picked St. John's in that game. I
Okay.
again like Rick Pitino over John Shire. I get they finished the tournament. They won the ACC title. I think that ACC title game gave me more questions than answers. They've they've really gotten thinned out by some of the injuries that they're facing. I know that Cameron Boozer is going to be the National Player of the Year. That's something that I'm aware of. But I do get a little bit concerned with John Shire as a head coach, especially come March when he's facing someone that is as decorated as Rick Pitino is,
Hmm.
and whose team that if they make it to that Sweet 16 will be as hot as Rick Pitino's St. John's team.
And the other thing about Rick's team is it's very representative of Rick. You know,
Mhm.
it's a no apologetic, in your face, New Yorker, you know, kind of a team.
Yeah.
So it's very reflective of Rick. They're not going to back down from anybody. Um, and as good old John Thompson Jr. used to say, God love him. He used to say that at the end of the day, the difference between the Big East and the ACC is no blood, no foul.
Hmm.
And anytime he played against an ACC team, he goes, they're a whole lot, they're a whole lot softer than we are.
Yeah.
Uh, so that's where he went. Arizona, Long Island, I don't think we have to worry about that one. I think Zona moves on from there. Now you had Villanova over Utah State in the 8-9 on this one.
I had Utah State over Villanova here.
Okay, so this was not the chalk one you were talking about.
So Utah State actually, when you look at the odds market, they are favored by 2.5 by a point and a half. Excuse me, over Villanova. So they may have the lower seeding. They are considered the favorites according to Vegas and different sports books.
Well, I think. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, so while on paper, based on seeding, it would be an upset. According to Vegas, that's what they have predicted right now. I did pick Utah State though over Villanova.
I thought Utah State was undervalued. I mean, they played in that Mountain West, which is a tough conference, and I don't think that they got the kind of love they should have. And this is not Raleigh Massimino's Villanova team. It's not Jay's team either. I sorry, Villanova. I do think Utah State goes. Wisconsin and High Point. Wisconsin's been playing well, and I think they'll just move on. Arkansas and Hawaii. There's John Calipari again. Man, talk about moving. Hawaii had to come from another. They're 5 hours from.
Yeah,
that's a hell of a trip. You got to give Arkansas that one, I think.
Especially with again, guy at the helm, Calipari, Acuff Jr., that star power guard. It's hard. I'm not picking against them. I'll put it that way. I'll need to see that one to believe it.
How about BYU and Texas? Texas didn't look that great last night.
Yeah, it's a situation where I looked around my bracket and I didn't love this necessarily, but I'm a big fan of the 11 seeds this year. I'm a big fan of Texas because and a big part of it to do really is when you look around, a lot of these 6 seeds, they're hurt. BYU is hurt. Louisville now with the injury news that came out is hurt. You go down to North Carolina, the 6th seed, they're missing Caleb Wilson. That's
huge
injury, for any of these 6 seeds that I listed off. I like Texas. I think the way they won was resilient, and I think this is a team that when they get hot, it very much can beat BYU. I think they can beat Gonzaga. I think they can make it at least an Elite 8.
I like Mark Few and Gonzaga. What I've seen of Gonzaga and what I've seen of Mark Few's done, this is just another, cut and paste Gonzaga. I mean, they're there every year, and they seem to be defense first, but they can score with you. So I like Gonzaga clearly over Kennesaw State, and I'm going to have to disagree with you on the Gonzaga Texas game. So I'm going to go with Gonzaga there. Yeah. Miami and Missouri. That's a game I know very little about.
I'm taking Miami. I took Miami in every single bracket. Listen, these 7-10s, they flip-flop back and forth. This is a Missouri team that just did not play well in their final 3 games. They took Arkansas they took Arkansas to the brink. They won that one in overtime, or they lost that one in overtime. Lost by 6 to Kentucky, and then you go the game before that, and they lost by 16 at Oklahoma. I don't have a lot of trust and belief in this Missouri team, and in a case last night where I think NC State maybe made me rethink my overall thought process and the depth of the ACC versus the SEC. I think this is a game that Miami's going to win.
Jim Larrañaga has always been very good in the tournament, going all the way back to his days with George Mason. So the one it's kind of interesting to me. The team that Purdue is a 2 seed, but they were very schizophrenic toward the end of the season.
Yeah, they were 6-4 at the end. You look at some of their games, and they lost to Michigan pretty handily. According to this, they actually beat Michigan in what appears to be their least recent game against them. But It's just a Purdue team that I don't trust. I don't know what it is. I don't trust Matt Painter and these teams in March. It feels like they are always on the bad end of a result. Obviously, the biggest and most notable was that 16-1 loss a couple of years ago when they lost to Fairleigh Dickinson in the first round. I don't have a lot of trust in these teams. I expect them to get past Queens, but I'm not sure they're going to make a Sweet 16.
So you got Miami going. I mean, I think we both have Miami going over Purdue.
Yeah. Yep.
All righty. So now we got to move up the deal here. Gonzaga, Miami.
Yeah, I think when you have that match, I don't have Miami getting past Texas in my bracket, so I would pick Gonzaga as well. I think the winner of that matchup is going to move on to that Elite Eight.
Mm-hmm. Let's move up the ladder here to Wisconsin, Arkansas.
I went with Wisconsin. I went back and I really looked at the teams that they played in that final stretch and how well they played down that stretch. And when you've got the teams, you've got Michigan State, you've got Michigan, you've got Illinois. These are all teams that they have beaten. Iowa as well, really good team. Purdue, one of the teams in there that they've beaten. They've beat pretty much. They beat that entire top of the Big Ten with the exception of Michigan, who they lost to by 3 in that championship game. So I like if they beat High Point, that means their momentum is kept rolling, and I would like them to beat Arkansas.
Okay. Why am I'm scrolling back up? The one area, for some reason, I don't have St. John's. Well, here we go. Maybe no.
You should scroll up just a little bit. There's
Yeah.
Arizona and Wisconsin right there.
Okay. Yeah, that's where I was saying. Okay. Arizona, got to give Arizona the love there. All right, so that takes us down to UConn is in the Final Four.
So if you scroll back up.
Yep.
And then you should have Arizona and Gonzaga right there in the middle.
Yep. Arizona, hello.
Yeah, and I picked Arizona. I have them, not to spoil it, but they're a team that I believe is going to make the national championship. I think they're the best team in college basketball this year.
How come we don't see Florida?
You have to scroll down. It's the bottom part of the bracket.
Oh, there we go. Is that?
Yep.
That's why it's not there. Okay. We'll go Florida. Okay. Clemson, Iowa.
So this is of the 8-9 matchups. This is the other one that's flipped. Iowa, the 9 seed, is actually favored over Clemson. This is the one. This is one where I just had to make what I felt like was a bit of a tough decision. I went with Clemson just because I'm when I'm looking at the bracket and the way the math works out is I'm trying to pick 2 favorites and I'm trying to pick 2 underdogs because when you look at the numbers, these 8-9 matchups are about 50-50 in terms of the seed that typically wins.
Troy and Nebraska.
Yeah, that's one where I just trust Nebraska. These are 13-4s. Again, if you're going to pick a 13 over a 4, I don't think this is going to be your spot.
I think VCU is going to give Carolina a whole lot of grief.
I've been a big fan of VCU. Obviously, they ended their season really well. If I could be wrong on this one, I believe they won the MAC championship, or not the A10 championship.
Right, they won the A10 championship.
Yeah, beating Dayton. I like that momentum coming into this tournament. I talked about it. I really like the 11 seeds over these 6 seeds, especially the ones that are hurt. North Carolina missing Caleb Wilson is just so much of a different team than when they have him. And it's just not a team that I can trust, especially with the way Hubert Davis has coached when he hasn't had the same kind of star power.
I want to pick Penn over Illinois, but it's so hard.
Yeah, that's one I just couldn't do it. I picked Illinois. That was I had 113/4 matchup that I picked, and I couldn't do it on the Illinois and Penn one.
I got to go St. Mary's over Texas A&M.
I also took St. Mary's. Yep.
I just they played really well,
Yeah,
and
they did.
I love Dr. Sampson out in Houston, Calvin.
Yeah.
The win over Idaho. Oh, Iowa State, 100% over Tennessee State.
Yep.
This Kentucky Santa Clara game is intriguing to me.
Yeah, I looked at Santa Clara's body of work, and specifically when I talk about their body of work, I looked at the way they played against the two big dogs out of that conference, and Gonzaga and St. Mary's. They didn't play as well against Gonzaga, but they also didn't get blown out of the water either. They did have one bad result against St. Mary's, but then they bounced back and beat St. Mary's in that tournament. Santa Clara is a really good basketball team, and for as much as I would like to believe in Kentucky and the overall talent they have, really the only thing that would make me pick Kentucky is this belief that I have that Mark Pope thinks that he is coaching for his job, and there's that kind of urgency. However, I don't want to pick off of something that I think I might be right about or might be right. So I'd rather pick on the basketball merits, and Santa Clara overall has been a more complete basketball team than Kentucky has throughout the season.
All right, Virginia. Virginia's not losing to Wright State. Okay.
No.
Tennessee. Let's see. Man. I don't know. Miami of Ohio and SMU, that's the game tonight. We don't know who's there. I'm guessing it's going to be Miami of Ohio.
Yeah, you would think so.
I'll tell you what. I'm going to go Miami of Ohio. I'm going to put it in there. And if it's SMU, I would take Tennessee. But if it's Miami of Ohio, I'll take that.
So a couple things that I found interesting, specifically about Miami of Ohio. They lead the country in field goal percentage. They're eighth in the country in three-point percentage. They do a really good job shooting the basketball. They're not as great behind the line, 81st. And when you look at Miami of Ohio and Tennessee matched up one-on-one, Tennessee's field goal percentage is 106 in the country. Their three-point percentage is 208 in the country. And they shoot 69% from the free throw line. Overall, they're just not really a great shooting team. They do hold opponents to under 70 points a game, so they're pretty good defensively. Surprisingly enough, though, going back to that playing game tonight, is Miami of Ohio is actually a 7.5-point underdog against SMU.
What?
Mm-hmm.
Oof, that's surprising.
It's a big
Alabama
number.
and Hofstra. Got to go with Alabama there, painfully.
That's actually, if you're going to pick one, and I'm not doing this as much on the merits of what Hofstra is as a basketball team.
Right.
It more has to do with what Alabama's missing. Aiden Holloway, I would be nothing short of shocked if he played in this basketball game. Without him, it's at guard. They are going to be a weakened team. Do they let that affect them? Does it permeate into the locker room, or are they able to kind of block out that noise? Because I would say talent-wise, Alabama is obviously still a better team. If the noise enters there, then I would say this is your 13/4. I think this is, if there's going to be one, this is going to be it, mainly because of Bama missing Aiden Holloway.
Yeah. I'm going to go ahead with Alabama just because I think that it's not going to be. I think they'll sneak by. Texas Tech over Akron. I don't think that's a tough one.
That's when this is the area where I'm going through and I'm trying my best to play the numbers.
Find somebody.
Yeah, find somebody, and it bites me. I feel like more than it helps me. But this 12-5 matchup is Akron 10-0 in their last 10. Obviously, they won the MAC tournament.
All right, I'll go with them.
Yeah, I don't. And again, I'm picking this I'm going based off the math of the seedings and the history in that. But I'm also looking at this is a Texas Tech team that is losing, that is without their leading scorer in JT Toppin. Latrell Hoover, their forward, is also out. And LeJean Watts is a game time decision coming into this versus this Akron team that's 29-5 overall and 17-1 in the MAC. So their one loss being Miami of Ohio throughout the
Well,
regular season.
we talked about this before, right? And that was when Akron got the 12 seed and Miami of Ohio got the playing game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Miami of Ohio technically a higher seed, being seeded 11th, but they have to play the extra game, and Akron doesn't.
Right. And the thing with Akron is they've always had a pretty good ability to recruit well, going all the way back to the days of Bob Huggins,
Yeah,
who began
yeah,
his career there, and the MAC needs a little love, so we'll give the MAC some love there. And God knows Texas Tech is, do they spend as much on basketball as they spend on football? I don't know.
it'd be tough to do.
Yeah, it would be. Georgia St. Louis, you got your dogs there, man. Tell me
Yeah,
about the dogs.
yeah. And I mean, in the game like this, I personally, I have my biases, so I am going to pick
Mhm.
Georgia in that game.
I think I do think Georgia's a more talented team than St. Louis. Michigan 100% over Howard.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Then,
you have to go Michigan over Georgia.
oh, don't worry, I did it as well.
Okay.
So,
And Bama over Akron.
yeah.
Yep. Okay. Virginia. I think Virginia is probably the second best team in the ACC.
Yeah. They played really well in that championship game against Duke. They pushed them to the wire. So it's one where when you look at the slate that they went through these teams that you saw what NC State did last night. We've picked Miami to move on to that round of 32. And they're a team that they handled by 22 points. And then only lost to Duke by 4 in that championship matchup. So they're playing much better as of late, I believe. And I think that's a matchup that'll get them into the Sweet 16.
Here's one that Houston's pissed because they think they should have won last time. St. Mary's, I don't know. I got to go with Samson here.
Yeah. I do have my concerns over that Houston team a little bit. I again, this is one of those matchups that I had a lot, and I didn't go all chalk throughout all of them, but in the bracket that I really am kind of, I guess I would say my most serious one, I did pick St. Mary's over Houston.
I got Illinois over VCU. Let's go Vandy, Nebraska. That's a tough 4-5.
It is a tough 4-5. It's a tough one for me to pick, mainly because they're both 6-4 in their last 10. But when you look at the way Vanderbilt's last 10 have went, and really the way they played, I struggle because Nebraska did not end well against that Purdue team. They lost 58-74 in that Big Ten tournament. They did beat Iowa in overtime, but then you look at the next one. The next one's a 20-point loss to UCLA. They have not played great as of late, and you look at their wins, and a lot of them are against worse teams. But it's one where I'm trusting the overall body of work and the big wins that they did have earlier in the year to move on there.
So you go with Nebraska.
I am.
I think I'm going to go with Vanderbilt. I think Nebraska's not a tournament-tested team.
No.
And I think Vanderbilt is. I'll take Florida over Iowa. Thank you very much. Okay. And that takes us to Arizona. Florida beats Vanderbilt. Michigan beats Alabama. And what do we got here? Okay. Houston, in my bet, Houston. I'm going to go. I want to pull the trigger on Iowa State. Um, tell me why I'm wrong, or tell me why I'm right.
I like Iowa State. They're a team I have going to the Final Four. I just think that they ran up against Arizona and that really good Big 12 a lot. Like it was, I think, the toughest conference in basketball when you look at all those top teams going back and forth against each other, because you have Iowa State, you have Kansas, you have Houston, you obviously have Arizona, and then you have Texas Tech there looming as well. It was a really good, I think the depth at the top was really good. And I look at those battles they had against Arizona, and I'm hard pressed not to send them to the Final Four, because I think they are one of the four best teams in college basketball this year.
All right, I'm going to go. My Final Four is UConn, Florida, Arizona, Iowa State, and I'll take the Gators to repeat.
Yeah, my Final Four, I had it shake out to where I've got Michigan State and Illinois on one side of the bracket, and I've got Arizona and Iowa State. I advanced Michigan State from there, and I advanced Arizona from that game against Iowa State, and I picked Arizona to win the title. I think they are the best team in college basketball this year.
They're a good basketball team. There's no doubt about it. And it would be a rematch of a game that was played. What was it? Very early in the season.
Yeah, it was. I can't remember that. Let's see. I'll go back and look it up here.
Let's see, 112 points. That's low, a little low.
Yeah. Oh, that's. Never mind.
What's that?
Well, let's see here. So actually, they did not play earlier in the season. Maybe Arizona and Michigan did. I don't know, but their last matchup was November 23rd of 2023. Arizona and Michigan State's was.
I'm talking about Florida and Arizona.
Oh. Let's see here.
Wasn't it the early in the season, one of the tournaments?
Yeah, November 3rd of 2025, the Hall of Fame series in Las Vegas. That's a game that Arizona won 93-87.
Mm-hmm. And that's when Florida's guards weren't playing well.
Yeah. Yep. Let's see here. Yeah, in that game, Koa Pete had 30 and Jaden Bradley had 27 to lead Arizona. Arizona won by 6, won the first half by 4 points, won the second half by 2 points.
Great. I love Disney. They make you put your password and everything else in here to just fill out a bracket.
Oh yeah. Yep, you got to have all the. That's one of the most fun parts of this time of year is trying to remember all your logins and emails and passwords for all of these services, just so you can fill out the bracket again.
Such a treat. Okay, I think the next one will go. I think the next one I do is going to go to Yahoo. So there we go. All right, we're back. That was fun. I think that there's a lot of entertainment here. I do think there's probably, I'm going to say, between 8, maybe 10 potential Final Four teams, and maybe 5 or 6 different potential combinations of championship caliber teams.
Yeah, I think it's last year they had I believe it wasn't it all chalk, all one seeds made the Final Four for the first time.
I'm trying to remember whether, because Florida wasn't a 1 seed.
Florida last year was a 1 seed.
They were?
Yeah.
Okay, hang on a second. Let me check. All right. 2025 NCAA Final Four. Okay, let's see. Okay. Great. It wrote. I didn't want it to write a story. I wanted it to tell me who won. Let's look it up real quick. The 2025 NCAA Men's Final Four. Research as we look, ladies and gentlemen. All right. Okay. Let's go. Okay, the Southeastern Conference broke a record with the most teams in the tournament. That's great. I don't see anything about who was who. I got everything but who was seeded.
Well, let's see here. Yeah, it was number 1 Florida against number 1 Auburn and number 1 Houston against number 1 Duke.
No, there you go. Chalkville all the way.
Mm-hmm.
In San Antonio.
Yeah, I just have a very hard time believing that that's going to repeat. Obviously, you come in and they feel like they're the 1 seeds for a reason,
Mm-hmm.
and they have the ability to kind of get those, or not those, but they get at least one warm up game, or at least you believe it to be such against the 16 seeds. But I just don't think they are as heads and shoulders better as they felt last year.
No, I don't think they are either. I like the way they're playing right now. That's all. I mean, that's my only reason for going that route. Because I do think that they're playing good basketball. Which usually means for me they will not make the Sweet 16. Something will happen. It's gonna be a good tournament. It's once we get out of these games tonight, we'll get tomorrow. Everything starts getting serious.
Yeah.
Now tomorrow is the start of the Valspar. Will you be joining us from the Valspar, or where would you be joining us from?
Yeah, I can join you from out there. I'll probably my game plan is to be out there to follow the grouping of Xander Schauffele, Keegan Bradley, and Patrick Cantlay, who tee off at 8:24.
That's going to be fun.
Morning. Yep.
It's a gorgeous course.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to getting out there. It's been a little cooler down here. The wind's been whipping a little bit, and tomorrow it's set to be 75.
It's supposed to be nicer.
Yeah, so it'll warm up tomorrow, and looking forward to what's hopefully going to be a really good day of golf out of that group, especially when you have the group that goes off just before them at 8:13 a.m. off the 10th tee is Victor Hovland, Brooks Koepka, and Corey Connors.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you got some 6 decent players there.
Yeah, so I'll probably hang out in between those 2 groups, and I might choose to track one of them, or just be able to give a summation of both of their days, kind of bouncing back and forth.
Yeah, that's gonna be fun. So, all right, any final thoughts before we get out of here on a Wednesday afternoon?
Not a lot. Obviously, you had the World Baseball Classic you
Mhm.
had that Texas and NC State game that really gave us a good starting point for March
Mhm.
Madness. And I think all of that is just a really good precursor of what's going to be a great week of sports. When you
Mhm.
really get into that weekend, you have the Valspar and you have this March Madness tournament kicking off.
Mhm. And one other thing, which I'll briefly talk about on Saturday. I'm sorry, on Friday. One of the great auto races in all of sports car racing is happening this weekend, and it's happening about 50 miles south of where you are right now, and that is the 12 Hours of Sebring. And it's one of the best one-day races you're going to find anywhere. As a matter of fact, worldwide, it's considered probably the most difficult race to win. And so we'll see how that plays out. It's going to be very entertaining, and we'll see what happens over about, as I say, about 50 miles south of where you are right now, um, in a race course and a race that goes all the way back to the 1950s. So saddle up. It's a good time to be in Central Florida. That's for damn sure.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
All right, gang.
Tournament games are being played here too.
Yeah, on Friday. You got
Yep.
Valspar, you got the tournament, you got Sebring. You got a little bit of everything going on there, buddy.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, we'll see you tomorrow, and y'all take care. Okay.